Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Would you be kind enough to stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, very good. Steve, as always, we'll take a moment for the folks at home to project for them what will be on tonight's agenda. He says, hoping that our technology will cooperate, or not. Huh.
Pedal harder.
Transpired in the last few minutes, but oh, I know, right? It's turned off.
That'll help.
It's got an automatic turn off setting for the folks at home. Okay, we'll start again. Technology is only as good as the folks that are utilizing it, and I think you've seen my expertise at work. So we'll just quickly scroll through. The folks at home can decide how long they want to hang on. We do have a couple of presentations this evening. Okay, so we begin tonight's meeting as we do every first meeting of the month with the supervisor's report. And of course, we have the budget adjustments. All right, we're going to do a digital supervisor's report. Here we go, folks. And this is an effort to try and connect you with knowing how your money is being spent here in the town of Red Hook. This is for the period ending March 31st. And I will go to the summary balances. We had an opening balance of $3,566,878. We had a large amount of receipts because it's tax collection season, $4,037,941. Disbursements were $1,318,043. That leaves a remaining balance of $6,316,765. And just so you folks at home know, that number will continue to go down for the other 11 months out of the year as we draw from our tax receipts. Are there any questions about the supervisor's report? I don't know if you had that. We also have some budget adjustments prepared for us by Ann Conway. And you will see that the adjustments take into account some changes relative to funds being established in an H fund for the tennis court replacement project, which is coming up in the summertime, and we're going to talk more about the grant relating to that. There is also the reestablishment of the sidewalk project. Annually, we have to re-up those funds in appropriations. And it also, these budget changes reflect the purchase of the vehicle for the highway department and also the loader as well. Any questions? All right, if not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Second.
Okay, thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, all good. I don't have many announcements. Oh, we have the clerk's report. I apologize, Sue.
That's okay. Town Clerk Monthly Report for March of 2017. Total local shares remitted to supervisor as town revenue, $1,740.60. Amount remitted to New York Ag and Markets for the spayed and neutered dog program, $59. Amount remitted to New York State Department of Health for marriage licenses, $45. Amount remitted to New York State Environmental Conservation, $335.40, for a total state, county, and local revenue of $2,180. Pursuant to Section 27, Sub 1 of the town law, I hereby certify that the foregoing is a full and true statement of all fees and monies received by me, Sue McCann, Town Clerk, Town of Red Hook, during the period stated above in connection with my office. That's it.
Okay, very good. I just have one announcement for the folks at home to remind them, if you're not aware, there is a bridge replacement project that is going to begin in the next few weeks. That is on County Route 78, Broadway, the entrance to the village of Tivoli. That project is going to take about 4 to 5 months. You'll have 2 alternative ways to get to the village. That would be Kid Lane or north on Stony Brook Road as well. So we want to let you know that that project is due to start at any time, and to make changes accordingly. Okay, first up is public comment period. Do we have any public comments? Linda?
Hi, Linda Keeling. I'm going to comment again on the zoning review committee, which I commented on last month. Since that time, which I complained about minutes not being available, Chairman Susan Simon completed January, February, March minutes. However, they were incomplete, sort of a feeble attempt to try and get something on the website. The minutes have no attendance taken, no motions by members on particular topics. It's about a half a page. The time of the meeting and the ending were not noted. They're very incomplete. Chairman Susan Simon is undemocratic and dictatorial. She has unilateral decisions rather than committee consensus. I strongly want you to replace her. Okay, also number 2, last month, Chairman Kathy Michael of the Tree Commission submitted her group's activities. Something happened in the email that you didn't get it, but she had sent it. 3, a little commercial. Arbor Day celebration is Saturday, April 29th, 10 to 2 at the Town Hall. There will be free seedlings to Red Hook citizens, 1 per household until all 100 are gone. Information will be available. Poster contest winners will be displayed as normal. Member Cody Hay will demonstrate tree climbing gear and demonstrate knot tying. This is an opportunity for youngsters to ask questions about considering working in the tree trimming planting job. On that day, we'll be celebrating Treeble's Garage, which is 100 years. And there'll be a tree planted at the town hall in the back here, along with some other trees.
Okay.
And that commercial was not in the last minutes that I noticed, so. Your minutes are so detailed, I love them. But that one particular thing, there was nothing mentioned.
Okay.
I think I wasn't sure if, because there's a mix-up about the 2 dates, there's an April 22nd date and April 29th.
That's Earth Day, that's the town
Right.
does the cleanup.
Right, which we know now, yep.
Are you gonna be mentioning that?
Well, we do have a few folks in the audience, so yes, cleanup day will be happening this Saturday, which is Earth Day. We're actually going to be launching from the Red Hook Community Center. They're having actually their open house from 12 to 4 also that day. I know that the Village Green is planting trees, I think starting at 9 o'clock, if I'm not mistaken, in the village. So we have several activities going on, and we could certainly use volunteers, especially for cleanup day. As I'm sure you've noticed, there's quite a large amount of garbage along the roadside, and it's a fun event, and there's free food at the end of it. And so we hope to see you at the community center that's on 5th Street, just off of Route 199 East. Okay, very good. So this evening, the first item on the agenda is a presentation from our school superintendent and business manager. We have Paul Finch and Bruce Martin. Gentlemen, good to see you again as always.
Nice to see you, Mr. Supervisor. I'll be brief. I don't want to have
Do we have you
Sarah
mic'd?
have her baby or anything. I'll be brief. I don't know if this is on. Is this on?
Steve, you got-
I can be loud. I can be loud.
Okay.
So,
Don't be too loud, Paul.
I won't be too loud. So, a couple of thoughts. I could sum this up in 2 words if you want.
Mhm.
The budget cycle this year.
Okay.
Health insurance is really the main driver of our budget discussion this year. So, you know, as always, we start every year thinking we want to go into the following year maintaining programs and enhancing where we can, staying under the cap, and you know those things don't always reconcile well. So, especially when health insurance is moving at 16% increase, which represents about $1.4 million. But we were able to pull it together, and I'll cut to the chase and say that we took from a health insurance accrual that we have, essentially a reserve, that we have $600,000, and we tightened our expenditure budget. We had some state aid come in, a modest amount of state aid come in, and ultimately able to close that gap and make it work so we can move into next year with a tax levy of 2.35% increase. That's a budget-to-budget expenditure increase of 1.82. I'm starting to get these numbers. Last night was our first presentation, and I didn't have them like memorized, but now I've got them memorized. And we're excited because we think we have the resources to continue the good work that we do. And I thought I would share just a couple of the good things that are going on. And by no means is the list exhaustive. So I'll start with the primary school. We've got an intergenerational sharing program going on, and that's where we're inviting our the more seasoned folks among us to come in and share their experiences growing up, or the talent that they have with our youngest children. We expanded our pre-K program to be from a half day to 2/3 of a day, and then we use that other third to provide some extra support, not only for students that need it, but for parents that might need some extra support. And again, that's a very targeted pre-K program. That's not a universal pre-K. That's really income-based targeted program just above our Head Start students. So, I should say the Astor Head Start students. So we have 18. Last I checked, we had 18 students that were in that class. Also, we've got a program for our ELL students, our English Language Learner students, that's new this year. It's a collaboration with Culture Connect. It's a program that's run by Wendy Brisley. If you know Wendy, she's a ball of enthusiasm. And she's working with BART students to come in and tutor our English language learners after school, and really help them get their homework done, and B, have another opportunity to socialize and learn the English language. And we found that to be really successful, and I have to thank Wendy for the hard work that she's doing. At the middle school this past year, we redeployed part of a teacher to just do technology integration in a meaningful way with kids. We've deployed probably hundreds of devices over the last year, and we're not quite a one-to-one, but we're working our way toward that, and we're trying to do it in a very organic way when we have teachers that are really interested and enthusiastic, and they've done the professional development needed to make it really impactful in the classroom. We do that, so that's exciting, and the focus at the middle school has been on digital publishing. And at the high school, we have a new principal, so that's a big thing. I said last night that Roy Paisley retired after 1,700 years, and we miss him, but we're really happy with Phil Campbell. He's got some connections to Red Hook, but he also brings some experience from his time in Westchester as a assistant principal for about a decade in Somer. So he's looking at everything with fresh eyes and establishing positive relationships and it's really nice to have somebody new in the mix who's saying, why are we doing it this way? And thinking about doing things differently. So really a lot going on as always. And again, that list is not exhaustive. I could talk about our robotics club. They're on fire. I don't know, it really goes to the I guess to the point that if you look at a successful program, any successful program, whether it be in school or an extracurricular, you find a passionate person. And Yvonne Pierce and Dwayne Decker, they're just amazing advisors, and they've taken this robotics club that started off with maybe 5 or 6 kids to they're at the world, going to the world championships. Amazing, really amazing. So we're really proud of them and all the work that's happening, and great things are happening in Red Hook. And I'll let Bruce fill you in on some of the other details.
Great, thanks.
So Paul does a tremendous job of really giving you the story in a nutshell. I'll just hit a couple of additional details. Let me start off by stating that technically we're talking about a budget right now that has not yet been officially adopted by the Red Hook Central School District Board of Education. They're slated to do that tomorrow evening at their board meeting. But we believe the budget we're talking about right now is the budget that they will adopt tomorrow night and will then be on the ballot in May. So Paul really hit the highlight. The big story this year in the budget was the large increase in the cost of health insurance, partially offset by a downward trending teacher's retirement rate and employees' retirement rate. So you folks are familiar with the employees' retirement system, and public sector employers are starting to get a little bit of relief in those rates. For us, the teacher's retirement system is a significantly larger portion of our retirement system costs, but they are also downward trending, and that helps slightly to offset the dramatic increase in the cost of health insurance. So as Paul mentioned, we did use some one-time money to offset a budget imbalance. We also tightened the budget tighter than it has been in a number of years, so there'll be a little bit less maneuverability, probably a little smaller fund balance when next year is over. Those two things both have the potential of starting a negative financial downturn if you're not careful to do them in small steps. So that's really the budget story in a nutshell, with a couple of additional details beyond what Paul told you about this evening. The other thing I'd like to do is tell you about some important dates coming up. So after the board adopts the budget tomorrow night, we will have a public hearing to hear the full version of the budget. That happens on May 3rd at 7 o'clock in the evening. It happens at the Mill Road 3-5 cafeteria. For folks who are not registered in the general election process, they can register to vote just in the school election, and we have a voter registration day for folks who are not registered at either the county or who've not voted with us in the last couple of years. That happens on Wednesday, May 10th from noon until 9 in the evening at the Mill Road 3-5 side, so there's still time to get registered if you'd like to come and participate in the election. And then the statewide budget vote date is the third Tuesday in May, and that this year falls on May 16th, and we will be voting in the 3-5 cafeteria at Mill Road from noon until 9 o'clock. On the ballot is the budget that we've talked about. We have a bus and vehicle proposition in the amount of $330,000. If passed, that would allow us to purchase all replacement buses. We try to stay on a 10-year replacement cycle. We usually don't quite keep up with that. We usually fall a little bit behind. But that would allow us to purchase 2 full-size propane buses. The propane buses have really proven to be very nice on the maintenance side. The mechanics and the director over there tell us that the maintenance is much easier on the propane buses than it was on the diesels. It would also include a wheelchair van and a smaller vehicle, a Ford Expedition, for some of our special ed runs where we only have 1 or 2 kids going at a time. There is a board election happening, and we have 2 seats coming up this year, and we have 4 candidates, and I'm going to have Paul jump in. He can quickly articulate the names of who is running for
See if I can do
the
this.
4 seats. I think he can. I know I can't.
I think I can. So we had Dawn Morrison and Ryan McCann. Their seats were up this year. And Ryan decided not to run again. Dawn has decided to run again, so Dawn will be one of the candidates. We have Lauren Rose, she's a professor at Bard College. Gretchen Werner, she's a parent, Linden Avenue student. And Jen Munn. Jen Munn, a parent, fivefold. So she's a parent pretty much in every building at this point, I think. So those are the folks running.
Yep, so we have the budget, we have the buses, we have the board election. We have some folks from the Red Hook Library here with us this evening, and they will go into the details. But they are on the ballot again this year for an increase in their funding. And then we have a student board member that sits with us. Typically that student board member is the student government president from the high school. It's a non-voting seat, but they really add a nice perspective to the board table. And every 2 years we have to have the community reapprove the presence of a student board member at the table. So that's really what's happening with the budget cycle. I don't know if Paul wants to say another word or two before we turn it over to the library folks.
Okay. And we'll do questions later if anybody has questions. Okay. Sounds good. Hi, Dawn.
Hi. For those of you who don't know, my name is Dawn. I'm the new director at the public library down the street here. And thank you for giving us a few minutes, and thank you for the school district for sharing their time with us. I have 2 grown children that came through the schools, and we're very lucky in Red Hook. We have wonderful schools, and it's a very special community. And so that's why, even though we came here for the schools, my husband and I are still here. And I want you to know that your little blue octagonal library is in the top 1% of the country. And that's a testament to this community, I think, and the involvement in education of all kinds. Because we have wonderful education for children, and when the schools are closed, we have education at the library for everybody, actually, all ages. We have science for 2-year-olds, and we have science for 99-year-olds, and everything in between. Everything has changed for us in the past 5 years. We've grown exponentially. So in 2011, we had less than 400 programs happening, and this year I expect we'll present over 600 programs. In 2011, we had about 4,500 people attending those programs. This year I expect about 10,000. And the nature of the programs has changed. Now we are presenting coding to kindergartners, and we're having a great eclipse viewing party on the lawn of the middle school in August 21st, don't forget. It's the biggest eclipse in like 50 years, so that'll be fun. And likewise, our budget has changed. So again, we have 4 full-time staff members now, and health insurance as well is going to cost us about $10,000 more this year. And whereas in 2011, our staff budget was $91,000, now it's well over $200,000. We have 14 staff members. 4 are teen pages, 4 are full-time adults, and the rest are part-time adults. And we could not do what we do without these really creative, dedicated people who really are not doing it for the money, but we do need to be right by them. So we are asking for a 5.87% increase in our 259 budget this year, which will equate to, for the average homeowner in the district, about $3.55 more per year, which is about half a board book, basically. And we're Proposition 3. And if you have any questions, you can ask me later on, or please call the library. I'm there almost all the time. It's really nice to see some of our patrons here as well. So, thank you for
Very
the
good.
time.
Well,
Thank you, yeah,
Thank you all very much for coming, and does anybody on the board or in the audience have questions for them this evening? No? Okay, if they want more information on the budgets, can they go to the school website or reach out to your
Shortly,
office?
the full budget will be available on the school website. It isn't there quite yet. By the middle of next week, it will be.
Okay,
Yep, you can always call, email.
okay.
And the library, you can always stop in at the library, speak to any of the staff members, speak to any of the board members. We have our website is up with our email addresses, and so anybody has any questions, just feel free.
Okay,
So
very
good, thank you for having us.
Well, we thank you all for the great job that you're doing, that, even if you are one of the few folks to be paid doing that job, you all go above and beyond, and so we really appreciate it. And thanks again for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good, well, we have, and you may be included in this group, but we have some folks who need to get to bed pretty soon. So why don't we get to our next item on the agenda, and that's the DEC Camp Scholarships. We have 2 applications here. And we have Jen Kavanaugh. Where are you, Jen? There you are. Getting the camera ready.
Well, I'm glad you stayed. You should see.
Would you like to introduce our recipients?
I will introduce the program and the recipients. I am Jen Kavanaugh. I'm a member of the CAC. I'm here with Laura Husted, who is the chair of the CAC and our liaison, Sarah. And a brief kind of summary of why I'm here and what it is for over 30 years, the CAC has partnered with the local VFW 7765, to provide a area student a free scholarship to attend the overnight DEC environmental camp. That has been going on for over 30 years, and it's been a very successful program. And the last few years, we had such a great turnout with our kids that I approached the Hendrick Hudson Masonic Lodge, and they graciously decided to join us in this adventure and are sponsoring a second child, and have been doing so for the last 3 years? 3 years, yeah. So every year we ask for applications from area kids, and this year we had kind of a bumper crop of, I think we had 7 or 8 kids apply, in all great applications. The schools are doing a great job because we have a lot of really smart, inquisitive, and active children who are participating in this program. So the schools and the library are doing a wonderful job. So without further ado, I'll invite up Angel Salinas. He's our first recipient. He's sponsored by the VFW. Angel is very interested in green energy, which I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of solar panels on the roof here, and soon to be more if the supervisor and others have their way. And so he is going to be attending the camp up near Lake George this summer. And so if you would like to step up here, Commander Moore will present you with your certificate. And
Congratulations.
Okay.
On behalf of the Reddick VFW Post 7765 Veterans of Foreign Wars, I have here the certificate of appreciation to you, Angela, for being able to attend the New York State DEC Summer Environmental Educational Camp. And it's with great pleasure that the Reddick VFW can do this. Thank you.
Very nice, all right. Before you go, congratulations. Now that I know you're interested in green energy, I want to tell you a couple of things. I had a vacation last week, maybe you heard me tell your mom and dad. Went to Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, they've spent an enormous amount of their time and efforts on getting renewable energy. 87% of the energy that they use is from renewable resources. Hydroelectric, actually they have quite a bit of wind as well, and solar. So my suggestion to you is next time we're going away, ask the parents to take you to Costa Rica on a research expedition. All right? Congratulations, thank you very much. Okay, Jen, next.
And our second recipient is Ashley Santabenes. Sorry, try not to butcher too much. And your sponsor is the Hendrick Hudson Sonic Hall, and this is Dr. Bruce Cutler, and he will present you with your award. Ashley is very interested in composting, which, as you little known, happened this week. The town hall now has a composter out back, so the town hall is composting, and maybe you can come over every once in a while and make sure they're doing it right, okay?
Ashley. Hi. Yeah, you're welcome. On behalf of Henry Hudson Lodge number 875, in conjunction with the town of Red Hook, I would like to present this certificate to you, Ashley Santabenes, okay. See the way it's written, you can't see. For your one-week experience at the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Education Camp. Now, I'm in another organization that we also send children to that camp, and everyone has come back, so they've loved it, and maybe this will influence what you do your whole life. And if you have time this year, you can come and help me compost. No. Congratulations.
The supervisor wants to shake your hand as well.
Yep.
Mommy wants another picture too.
Yeah. Okay, for the cameras. No, don't worry. We'll hold it up together. Very nice.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And what about having the two of you up here? Would that make
Great.
sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bruce and Commander Moore, would you
Let's-
all come back
shall
up?
we?
That'd be great.
Maybe over there with the blank wall behind you.
Well, we have a handsome town board and town clerk that we would like to show off as well. No? Sarah's like, no.
Okay, look like
Okay.
you like each other,
Pictures are
everybody.
too busy that way, I think we'll all fold it up.
I have solar panels in my house.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you very much, Bill and Bruce. Congratulations. Enjoy the trip. Take photos for us, please. Okay. And Jen, I don't know if we thanked you, but thank you very much for coordinating all this. We appreciate it very much. All right.
Oh, Denny, I forgot to. Denny, also part of the series. Forgot you were sitting.
Denny's here representing the Energy Committee tonight, so we'll
I have a different hat on.
a different hat. Yeah.
So did Lori, but maybe she took the picture.
Okay. The third item on the agenda tonight is also a presentation. As you know, we are eligible for a $100,000 Clean Energy Community Grant based upon some work that our dedicated volunteers have done over the years. And before I say too much, I will introduce Lori Husted, the chair of our Conservation Advisory Council, to start off this presentation. And I will do the one thing I've already demonstrated I'm not good at, which is flipping slides. So
Turn it
no,
on.
I think we'll be good. I think that it just goes into sleep mode, and I was not aware of that.
So,
Saves energy.
As long as
I just slide
the,
flip
as
it.
long as the audience doesn't go into sleep mode, I think we're okay.
Start talking.
What's that?
I can proceed, yeah.
You can proceed.
All right.
Yeah, let me just make sure that we've got,
It's not in slide mode though.
that's not in slide mode. but that's okay.
It's fine.
I can just,
Scroll, in scroll mode.
it's in scroll mode.
Do we
Okay.
have a printout of this?
We don't
Oh, we
yet,
just-
but
it
we
just
will,
finished.
we can.
We will
We'll
definitely
digitally
you
send
one.
send it to you before the evening is over.
So
All
Red
right.
Hook has a clean energy community grant. How did we get this and what does it mean for Red Hook? So, scroll. To be eligible for the grant, Red Hook had to be designated a clean energy community. NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, created a list of 10 clean energy initiatives that communities could pursue that are all targeted to achieve positive impacts in the community, whether by directly reducing energy costs for the town or homeowners, enhancing the quality of new buildings, or improving our air, as examples. The municipality that could achieve 4 of the 10 initiatives would get the CEC Clean Energy Community designation. You can see here what Red Hook achieved to get our designation. We took part in energy benchmarking of the town buildings to figure out where our energy is used. Several of us participated in building code enforcement training and education so that we would improve our building stock going forward with the new energy code. We all know about our Solarize campaign that increased the number of solar installations in Northern Dutchess by 80 strong. And there's now a unified solar permit in Red Hook to help streamline applications for solar. You'll note the blue arrows. These are items that we are investigating or applied for grants or are likely to achieve as well. There are still others on the list that we could achieve with some more time, money, and thought. Really what we want you to note is that there's lots to do that is valuable. Next slide. So we not only had to get the designation, we had to compete for it. There are about 30 communities across New York that, like Red Hook, have gotten this CEC designation. 11 of them are in the Mid-Hudson region. But that's not enough communities. NYSERDA understands as well as anyone the urgency with which we need to move towards creating more resilient communities in these uncertain times. Given that they wanted to accelerate the process of towns, cities, counties working on these energy goals, they made it a race. So New York is divided into these development, what are called regional economic development council regions. And again, Red Hook is in the Mid-Hudson region. So each region was given a limited number of grants to be awarded to the first communities in their region to achieve these 4 high-impact actions. The award for small communities like Red Hook, with populations below 40,000, was $100,000 under the first round of the competition. So we're very glad we won that first race. But we want to point out, this is more than just a 5K run, right? It's more than a marathon. It's actually like we're hiking the Appalachian Trail. I'm done with my metaphor. So we always ask, how do we achieve the greatest good given the resources at hand? And what can this $100,000 opportunity do for Red Hook, and what is our responsibility in spending it? So we can proceed. Next slide. NYSERDA addressed some important items in giving out this money. One was that towns are understaffed when it comes to these projects, so the grant comes with technical support to help us implement projects and initiatives. We've long relied on volunteers with some of this work, and this assistance comes at a time when there is more than ever to get done and boosts our abilities to do it. Or at least it sort of makes it more reasonable for us to consider undertaking more. While no matching is required of us, the hope is that we will do more than match this grant. We can leverage this opportunity to tackle items that have bigger impacts on our community. You'll find we seek a blend of items that have paybacks alongside ones that offer benefits to community members and less direct return on investment. Always the goal is to reduce greenhouse gases, stimulate economic development, and achieve community health benefits alongside pursuing the state's renewable energy goals. Our town can continue to be both a pragmatic and innovative leader in developing and implementing clean energy solutions that work for all of us. And you have a commitment from your energy task force to continue to help. We worked hard to get this seed money. Let's use it to its greatest effect. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Paul. He's going to go into some of the details.
Very nice. Laurie, would you introduce Paul? Because I don't know,
Yes.
a lot of folks know Paul.
This is Professor Paul Caden-Zemansky in the physics department at Bard College, who's volunteered on the energy task force for the last 2 months since it was convened.
Oh, I think it's been a few more.
3 months? 4 months?
Since December of last year.
All right.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Lori. Thanks to the board for listening to our presentation. So I just thought I'd start out with a big picture, then drill down to some smaller pictures. So this is the rather complicated chart of what New York State's energy portfolio looks like. The key thing is that on the left-hand side shows you the sources of where we get energy from. So you can see things like solar energy, natural gas, petroleum, wind. And the right-hand side is talking about where that energy goes, how it's consumed in residential, commercial, industrial, transportation, different categories there. So the most important thing for what I'll be speaking about is actually electricity generation, which is that orange box in the middle of the top. And this chart shows where New York State's electricity generation comes from. A little under half of New York State's energy comes from carbon-intensive sources, in this case almost exclusively natural gas. And that's actually quite good for most states. So compared to most states, New York State has relatively clean electricity, but it's still half of it comes from carbon-intensive sources. So in the projects that I'll be talking about that we might do, we're sort of looking at two things. One is moving things that are sort of pure fossil fuels over to the electricity grid, and the other is moving from the electricity grid over to things like solar power, which are entirely carbon neutral. So you can go to the next, scroll to the next slide. So getting down to something a little more on an individual level, one of the first things that the task force looked at was just trying to get a sense of what the average household budget was and what their carbon emissions were like and what the different actions that they could do. So I won't go through all these in details, but there are things like changing your lighting from incandescent lights to LED lights. And there's a certain cost to that, there's a certain upfront, there's a certain benefit to that, and the fact that LEDs are more efficient, you're going to spend less money on your electricity bill. And then there's a carbon reduction. And for the purposes of this grant, I think what they're mainly looking at is carbon reduction. So I'm going to be talking about that mostly, and then towards the end I'll get back to the sort of dollars and cents, what the cost of various things are. So you can see that these small things that people can do, like changing lighting from incandescent to LED, and that saves basically 0.5% of your total carbon emissions. There are larger things, of course, a lot of people, like in the last line there, installing rooftop solar. We just heard the doctor talk about doing that in his house. So that's about 15% reducing your household budget. But the largest item here is actually switching to electric vehicles. You notice that's about a third of the average household's carbon budget. It would be switching one of, let's say, 2 cars to an electric vehicle, and switching 2 would save even more. And the other largest thing on the list was switching from fuel oil, which is the predominant heating source in this region, to electrically run heat pumps. And so that's switching from pure carbon sources to this grid, which is sort of half clean. And so we were a little bit inspired by these items, the sort of bigger items that make a bigger dent in the carbon footprint, to look at some of the items that affected individual households in the town, and also the town campus itself, this building, the town garage, the lighting, etc. So you can scroll to the next slide. Our initiative is to get to net zero. Basically, we have a certain carbon footprint that the town itself uses. First of all, the municipality uses. How can we get that down to zero? And then how can we incentivize individual households to get down to zero as well? So there are sort of two prongs. Most of what we're talking about is projects that are done on the campus, on the town campus, but we also want to use some of this money to incentivize individual households to do things that will reduce their carbon footprint and that helps reduce the carbon footprint of the entire community. In terms of what we can do on the town campus, I'll go through 4 projects very briefly on what can be done. So one is, in this building itself, we can improve the heating and cooling system to be significantly more efficient and take us off of fuel oil. Number 2, we can insulate actually reverse those 2. Well, we can insulate the building much better, so the roof of this building has exceptionally poor insulation, and we can just get efficiency savings just by improving the insulation there. Number 3 is converting a lot of our campus's electricity over to solar. So we already have solar panels on the roof of this building, which supply a good portion of the electricity energy for this building. But if you include things like the town lighting, ball fields, and the garage, there's still a big deficit of what we could cover with solar panels. So the garage roof offers a good opportunity to have a much bigger solar installation, a 75 kilowatt installation, which basically pretty much balances out what our current electricity consumption is in the town campus. And then the final one is something that was actually explicitly in the list of the 10 bullet points that I started was looking for, which was converting town lighting to LED lighting. So this is a big movement across the country, not just in terms of your household changing lights over to LEDs, but also street lights, which are, for the most part, sodium vapor lamps, switching those over to LEDs. It's more efficient energy-wise, so it saves money, and the LEDs last for much longer. They need less maintenance, so it's a sort of win-win. Yeah, you can scroll to the next one. So I'll go through these projects say briefly. Denny Calais is the one who did most of the legwork on figuring out the cost of these projects and what would need to be done. The ceiling of this building is not insulated, it's exposed to outside temperatures. If we do go ahead and insulate it, we can reduce our energy loss by about 30%. So that's just saving on your heating and cooling costs, which is the bulk of the cost of this building, by 30% just by doing that project. And so there's some details there about the type of insulation we use, but it's better than the, I guess, almost non-existent insulation which is there now. The second thing is that the current heating and cooling system relies on the oil furnaces for heating in the basement, and then cooling from 2 heat pumps outside the building. The heat pumps are about 30 years old. They're malfunctioning on occasion, so they're due for an upgrade. And this provides us with a great opportunity, which is if we're going to have to replace the heat pumps, we can replace them with, for a little bit more higher efficiency heat pumps. And those can not only offer us more efficient cooling in the summer, but can provide heating in the winter. So right now with the current 30-year-old models, if you weigh the costs of fuel oil versus using the heat pumps to heat the building, the fuel oil is the cheaper option. But with higher efficiency heat pumps, you can then switch over to using heat pumps both for cooling and for heating. And that'll, number one, save on costs, and number two, you get off that carbon emission from the fuel oil. So that's the main purpose of this, and it will require 3 high-efficiency air source heat pumps, 3 tons each. So go to the next one. So this is the garage roof solar, which I briefly mentioned, that we have solar panels on the roof now of this building, but we have more room in the garage. So if the 75 kilowatt system on the roof there, that basically offsets 100% of our current electricity usage, and that abates about a third of the total greenhouse gas emissions for the entire campus, this building, the garage, streetlights, ball field, etc. So this is one main thing. It's the biggest ticket item in terms of cost, but it also has is maybe most impactful in terms of greenhouse gas reduction and also long-term cost savings. Okay, so to the next section then, is the streetlight conversion. So I mentioned the rough outlines of that these are currently comparable to LEDs, much more efficient streetlights that we could have. There's another opportunity here, which is that currently the streetlights are maintained, owned and operated by Central Hudson. We pay a pretty significant rental fee every month on those. And if we take the opportunity to switch over, we can also buy the lamps themselves and be owners of that and no longer pay a rental fee. So you get one cost reduction in terms of you're not paying as much for electricity, and another cost reduction in that you own and maintain the lamps at a cheaper cost than what Central Hudson currently charges us. Those 4 items are basically have to do with the town campus. But then we also would like to use some of this NYSERDA money, which is something that we've been directed to by the granting agency to help incentivize community members to have their own reduction initiatives. So there are, one of the main things you saw in the sort of household emissions is the transportation cost, and if you could switch to electric vehicles, that would be a big savings for individuals, both in the emissions and the price they're paying for transportation energy. There's a lot of programs, state programs, and some federal programs to reduce the cost of the electric vehicle, discount on that. But there's still a cost to a homeowner or a property owner of often having to install outlets, particularly higher voltage outlets, that allows those electric vehicles to charge in a reasonable amount of time. And so what we want to do is use some of the $100,000 NYSERDA money to incentivize homeowners to get electric vehicles by offering them a rebate for that type of electrical work in their house that will allow them to use charging stations, high capacity charging stations. And I think that's it for this slide. So the other aspects on a more smaller scale, if you're not buying a new car, I mentioned the LED bulbs in the home is something that is pretty easy and cheap to do. There's always a little bit of inertia to changing over to these new systems of not knowing like which LED bulbs to use. I think one big thing that I've run across is if you just go to the hardware store and buy an LED bulb, you take it home, you screw it in, the color may look all wrong compared to what you're used to. But there are now a number of different color temperatures that are sold, and the idea is to have a swap-in program for the recycling facility where people can come and get LED bulbs and actually see the bulbs, see what the color temperatures are, find out what's right for them. And that, I think, will help to get over the barrier that people have about switching over things in their house of understanding that, oh, actually these can give me the same quality of light which I'm used to at a cheaper price long term. So scroll forward. So if we add up, going back to the sort of 4 town campus things, if we add all those up, so on the left-hand side, you can scroll a little bit more, Robert, is our current annual emissions. So this is in tons of carbon dioxide. So it's about a little under 60 tons of carbon dioxide, which comes from electricity costs that we pay, fuel oil, propane in the garage. And if we did all of these, we basically eliminate the fuel oil entirely by switching over to the heat pumps in the building. The propane stays pretty much as is, and we now generate more electricity than we use. So it's actually a negative number in this graph here. So we reduced by down to about a quarter our greenhouse gas emissions. So in terms of driving to be entirely net zero community, this takes us these 4 things take us 3/4 of the way there in terms of the town campus. And then finally, and maybe most importantly, scroll forward, is what's the cost of all this? All right. So I've listed in the upper right there the 4 different projects: town hall installation, the HVAC system upgrade. So that upgrade is basically the cost difference between a high efficiency unit and a regular efficiency unit, which is going to be replaced anyway. And then the garage solar array, I mentioned that's the biggest item, which is essentially providing 100% of our town's electricity is going to cost upfront cost about $200,000. And then the streetlight upgrade. So if you add up all those projects, it's $287,000. We want to use 1/4 of the NYSERDA money for this outreach program for rebates and getting community members to switch over, improve their efficiency, and 3/4 of the money is a down payment on these 4 projects. So if you take the difference from what NYSERDA gives us from the total cost of this, we end up with a balance. So that's what we need, a little over $200,000 for all 4 of these projects the town need to bond. But if you do a 15-year bond and you look at the bond payments, you realize that your bond payments plus your now lower electricity bills are less than what you're currently paying for energy. So shown at the left is the left blue bar is the no improvement annual cost for energy. This is in constant 2017 dollars. So you're spending a little under $45,000 a year total on energy. If you do these upgrades and then are making a bond payment to pay for these upgrades, you're saving about $3,000 a year. So it's roughly comparable, a little bit of savings. But then after you pay off the bond, that's the third blue bar, now you're saving on the order of $20,000 a year on energy costs. And I took this out to 25 years because most of the equipment, the 8 new HVAC systems, the solar panels, the sort of expected lifetime is around 25 years. Conceivably it could go for longer, but I thought we thought that was a reasonable term for that. So if you add up this sort of $4,000 a year savings, plus for the first 15 years, plus 10 years of $20,000 plus savings, you actually save over $250,000 over this 25-year period on energy at the same time as you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions down by 3/4. So this is our proposal to the town board for consideration, and I thank you for your attention and happy to answer any questions.
This will be in, you're going to put it in writing?
Yes, yeah, so there'll be, we'll print out these slides, and there's much more detail behind these numbers, and if you're interested in the models for that.
I want to point out a couple of things.
Please.
Back, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It was hard for me to, it was, an extremely intense presentation.
Identify yourself.
Oh, my name is Denny Collet. I'm on the Energy Task Force and the Conservation Advisory Council as well. The decision to do the upgrade, I want to explain the HVAC system upgrade of $8,000 is that the existing equipment in this building was installed in 1984 or 5?
Before my time.
Before your time, before Harry's time. And so a decision has to be made, it's at end of life. So you have choices of what you're gonna upgrade to. But today, just as you wouldn't replace an incandescent bulb with another incandescent bulb, we're kind of at a dilemma. Well, what are we going to use? And what's available at the state of the market is high efficiency heat pumps. And so what we're going to do is consolidate. Paul mentioned that we are using oil to heat as our primary source of heat. Our objective, of course, is to try to move away completely from any fossil fuel, and this gives us an opportunity. But it's predicated on being able to increase the efficiency of the building. So right above us in the ceiling is batted insulation, fiberglass insulation. A lot of it's not placed properly. There are voids and other things. If you walk up on a ladder, you don't need a flashlight because you can see during the daytime all the light coming in through the eaves and the soffits. So the temperature fluctuates between 0 degrees on extremely cold days to 100 to 125 degrees if you consider the intensity of the heat during the summer. And all of the equipment that's being used to cool or heat is exposed to those temperatures, those extreme temperatures. So the reason for insulating is to be able to, essentially increase the building envelope so that that the equipment, even if we did nothing in terms of changing the equipment, we would get a 30% reduction in cost for energy and energy savings. But by coupling all of these efforts together, what we're going to achieve is potentially a net zero energy and reduction of greenhouse gas emissions through the elimination of fossil fuel. So those were the primary points I wanted to make. The other one is with respect to the garage roof. The highway garage was originally constructed to support, and that was through that foresight of the town board when they made the decision to reinforce the garage roof to be used for solar. And up until now, we haven't really had that opportunity, and this affords us an opportunity to be able to basically offset our costs for all of the services that we're using, the electrical services, including, as Paul mentioned, the ball field and others. So the concept is to use remote net metering, which allows us to be able to offset our costs, and that would truly put us in a position where we could say we're close to net zero in terms of energy use. That's about it for me in terms of this.
Well, one of the things that, first of all, thank you all very much for the presentation, and I think it's really it's terrific because it's a win-win in all situations. We get to reduce our impact with this grant, and we get to reduce our annual expenses a little bit in the initial period, and then a lot going forward. But I notice one of the things that neither one of you mentioned is we actually get price protection. So if we're in control of, that electricity and the generation of the power for that electricity, we have given our taxpayers a level of comfort with at least these expense lines. And we all know about the fluctuation in the price of oil. Right now it's down, but we've seen it move up, fairly dramatically. I think Paula calculated an 80% move just within a relatively short period of time, one way or the other. So it's very persuasive, and obviously, we haven't even touched upon the health benefits, because if we're moving away from fossil fuels, we're creating a situation where hopefully the air is cleaner for our children and our grandchildren to breathe. So this seems to me anyway like a really good mix of accomplishments both from an environmental and a fiscal standpoint. I wonder, did you all have any initial thoughts?
So we'll have to study it.
Okay.
Yeah, I have some questions about the, I'm wondering about the citizen rebate part, the other quarter of the 100,000. Personally, I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the idea, just because I think a rebate works better at the state and federal level, where you have something like a tax return that you're actually processing that kind of money through, and the idea that the town would be giving out some kind of rebate to people, and it just sounds like it's creating a whole program that I'm wondering about the administration of, and kind of the look and feel of that, just from the citizen perspective. I think it can be confusing when we really don't do that kind of thing normally with citizens. You know, we don't really give out checks in that way, you know, or and I don't really know, so there's no detail here about what you are thinking about that, so I'm wondering, and $25,000 is kind of a big chunk of that, where I'm looking at this, which is very impressive, but wondering about bonding that amount of money. I mean, that's a significant decision on our part, even if we are making a savings. And so I'd love to see more detail about what that other quarter of the grant would go to, just so we could understand better how, you know, because obviously if we were to go for this, which is a very tempting package, like why not put all $100,000, you know, toward this, which to me makes a lot more sense from a town perspective. So could one of you maybe
Did
speak
you
to that?
want
And
to tackle that, Lorraine?
maybe put it at the microphone just so that we can, the people at home will be able to hear.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. One, we are a little fuzzy on those details because it hasn't been done before, and that's actually one of the most attractive things to the people who are funding these projects. Is this kind of, the town hall improvements are kind of not exactly what they're looking for. So we came to this other, using a quarter of it this way to meet those expectations of doing a community program. And we do have some experience with these kinds of unique programs with Solarize, with Energize. So
Well, those go through companies, right?
yeah, so I mean, we don't have, we haven't settled on a way to do it, but whatever we do, is not gonna be something that creates, someone handing Sue, a receipt and her giving her a bulb. We wanna make it so it's something that is not gonna be a burden. And that would have to come in front of you all again anyway. The priority for us was getting in the queue, because we need to get this thing in very soon to hold the money for ourselves. There's a May 1st deadline, and so this was enough for them to give them this sort of capital project, and then they gave us sort of, you can have some flexibility around this kind of innovative community program.
And we could move some of the money, they told us we could, if for some reason, some aspect of this didn't work out, whether it's the HVAC or something, we could move a portion of that funding to another one of the actions, since we were doing several actions. That was an important question for us. But yes, to your question, I mean, we have had town-sponsored programs like Solarize, Energize, where we've arranged to work with vendors, and those vendors then offer a discount. The real goal of this initiative through NYSERDA, the CEC initiative, is to leverage these ideas and these programs into the community. And one of the calculations that Paul made, which I thought was really persuasive, is the greenhouse gas emissions from the possibility of having 50 homeowners, and there was a competition that we all participated in, the municipality, so we thought, well, we should have a competition to spur adoption, perhaps an EV. If you get 50 people, you assist them with this obstacle of upgrading, you will have made a much larger reduction in greenhouse gas emissions from the $25,000 than in all of the work that we're doing here in the campus. I think, what was your calculation, Paul? Something like?
It's about 5 times.
5 times, so 1/4 of the money, but actually 5 times the impact. And that's what NYSERDA is looking for, is really for us to, initiate programs that get out into the community, because that's what they do, is that they initiate programs to leverage.
It just sounds like the rebate part of it is something that the town would design, right? Which is pretty different from Energize and Solarize. I mean, I think we should just acknowledge that those are state-run programs that have a whole staff of people that have been, it's been tested. I mean, do you know what I mean? Like, I just don't really understand how that would work, and I'm just really shaky on the idea of a quarter of this grant going toward that when we don't know how it would work, unless you can explain, like, what you're, even just like a sketch of what the thought would be, because it just sounds like it's something like turning in a receipt to Sue and getting your check or something. That's what I hear when I hear rebate program, and I'm just not sure what that looks like. And I guess I also feel that, I hope you understand that I'm completely for the idea of this, and just also I feel like the barriers to adoption of something like an electronic vehicle are higher than a solar array for your house. And those things are, solar arrays are, there's so much, it's so much clearer how to finance that through your electric bill, where like a vehicle purchase is like a really different decision, I think, for people. So again, I'm just like, I wish that we could get more detail on it before we had to adopt this,
Yes, of course.
because,
So
Yeah, that's not-
I completely agree with you, Sarah.
yeah.
I mean, I think this is new territory that we've not explored well enough to be able to say this is how it's gonna work and this is what it's gonna do. I don't know that 25,000 or a quarter of the grant is the right amount either. I mean, I think what we have to do is go back and kind of see whether or not there's a benefit that is equal to what we're offering as an incentive, whether or not there's other administrative costs, other issues that are there. All of these things have to be weighed. I think it's really throwing some spaghetti against the wall, see what sticks on these particular things, including the bulb swap, right? I mean, there are questions that come up of how we're gonna do that. We know that this is the right areas, though, that we wanna try to, whether it's an outreach program, whether it's educational or other things which can be kind of blended together to use that money, appropriately. But I don't disagree with you at all. I mean, from the standpoint, we have to understand where this is gonna go.
I mean, you remember like when we bought those composters from New Paltz for like way below market rate, and then we had such a headache trying to process. I'm just saying, like, and that was like $40 for a compost bin. It was like a free giveaway to people, but it was like, I forget what it was, but there are barriers, significant barriers to having that kind of commercial relationship with a municipality where it's perceived that you are either paying the municipality for something that's like outside of your tax bill, you know what I mean, or that we're giving out money. I just feel really nervous about it, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't put some money toward it, and obviously it sounds like they really want that kind of community outreach portion. It's just that obviously these things are much more straightforward. So I'm just wondering, like, if I see we have a resolution here, it sounds like we need to pass it tonight or before
Well, the
May 1st,
resolution
right?
is a generic one.
Right,
We
yeah,
can-
no, I
we
know,
can
I
come
can
back-
see we're not committing to any details here, I'm just
Exactly.
wondering,
Exactly.
but clearly you're gonna put this in as like the proposal,
Well, we
right?
have
Or
another
roughly?
week. No,
Yeah.
we have another week and another meeting.
But we don't have another town board meeting, right?
Yes, we do.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Not for me, though.
Okay.
Hello. I've been around here, living in this building for now about 15 years or more, and it's ancient, and the facilities in here, the equipment in here are ancient. They're long past their reasonable lifetime now, and it seems to me that putting major money into this building and to this campus, the town campus, is money spent on behalf of the town, all people of the town. It's as good as a donation to the individuals. Really, if you live here, you're paying for this, and this building and this campus is very wasteful now. It's getting better. We've put a fair amount of money in it already, but there's a point where what we're looking at now doing to this building, a few years ago we got some prices for it, and now we have prices that are more like a third of what we had just a few years ago with some aspects of it. So it seems to me the first objective would be to spend that money here. And by design, it's an investment for the entire community, and everybody will benefit from it. Now, when we talk about these other things that are coming up, Sarah, I have the same problems you do, is how we can use, how can we use it best, and how is technology evolving here? There are things that we can do today that we couldn't have done 2 or 3 years ago, and how many things are you going to be able to do a few years down the road that we can't do now? So I'd be just as happy to put some of the money into the bank and spend it next year or the year after.
Okay, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because it's not a gift. We're not getting $100,000 gift from NYSERDA for winning the competition. What we have to do is, we have to put in an application that demonstrates certain things, and it has to have community legs, if you will. It has
Well, this
to
building
reach-
has community legs.
Well, I understand that, Harry, but they're not gonna necessarily agree with you. So we've been working with a consultant,
No.
and so the application that we put in has to meet certain criteria, and it has certain points associated with it. So whatever the application looks like in the final analysis has to achieve a certain amount of points in order to fund this $100,000.
Yeah, so I just feel like personally as a board member, we haven't received that much detail about this. This is the first time we've seen these numbers. I haven't seen the application, so I'm taking your word for it that there's flexibility, that there's what the community outreach portion is, but I haven't seen any of that. So if there would be a way for you to share that, I would feel a lot more comfortable looking at that and kind of putting our ideas out there to you about what we feel is appropriate for that spending before we would vote on something that even, we have zero detail here. So I don't even feel like you could change this in the next, before May 1st, and we wouldn't, do you know what I'm saying? I just feel like I'm not even sure what we're committing to, and by approving a general resolution like this, I mean, again, I totally support going for the money. I'm just really wondering what we're committing to. And I know you've said that there's some flexibility.
Yeah, I think you all know I can't do the percentage in my head, but pretty much what most of the money is being spent on that has a return. It's this little part that is this sort of more community-oriented aspect that we need to work out. But they're willing to let us be a little fuzzy on that.
Yeah.
And we hope you would be the same. Because this is the return. The project that we're telling you about has the return.
Does it have to be 25-75?
No.
No, it doesn't have to be. We thought we were sort of being greedy by having 75 of it go to just campus and direct stuff.
That's what I'm wondering, though, can it be more than, can it be, 10% to community and 90%? Because
Well, no,
I think
I
what
said the
Harry is
opposite.
saying is,
Yeah.
well, I know what you're saying, but
Yeah.
I'm saying, I feel as Harry does, that the campus is a community resource. We're saving taxpayers' money, we're, besides that we're, forgetting the environmental benefits, which are just can we just agree that obviously there are environmental benefits, no matter which way we go, and obviously it'd be great if we could get everybody to have an electronic vehicle. It's not gonna happen, but of course it'd be great, and that would be even better if we could put all $100,000 toward that, but being realistic here,
A couple of things. One is, that's not the goal of the grant, is to save us money. It's great and convenient that,
No, I get it,
these
but that's
actions do
still-
actually save us money.
But as a budgetary body, that's part of what we have to make the decision on, it's not the environmental concerns, that's part of it, but it is also being good stewards of the taxpayer resources that we're given.
And that's
I mean,
why,
my
that's why I
opinion,
think the
but-
proposal has 3/4 of the money going towards campus stuff.
Right,
but
so I'm just wondering, can we make it more than 3/4? I'm just curious about that, because it
we
sounds
can
like there's
see.
flexibility.
Yeah,
We can
you know.
see, we can see
We'll see how the numbers
what they
work
will
out.
go for. We do know because we've had a consultant now for 6 weeks, a couple of months, something like that. They've already run some of these ideas up by NYSERDA. And as you know, we have a very positive relationship with NYSERDA, and they seem very excited about actually the community stuff. Not so much this, because they don't really want to use the CEC as an example to, as a delivery method to do the kinds of things that NYSERDA is already doing. They're already giving you funding towards solar for your highway garage. They were already giving you some credits for using certain types of heating and cooling systems. What they're looking for
For
is,
municipalities though? Because I thought we
Yes.
had been looking around for those and we hadn't
yes,
found
no,
any good
they are.
programs for that.
Geothermal's back now. Yes, they are. What they're looking for is innovation in adopting programs. So that's something to consider. And just as for background, Denny has done a lot of work, and others. We've actually had vendors and experts come in and give us really good estimates so that the numbers we put in there, obviously, until we go out to RFP on everything, we won't have exact numbers, but to give us a really good idea of what these things would cost. I mean, solar, which is the majority of the expense, I mean, is really at this point, an estimate is something that, you know, firms are doing all the time and have great reliability
The other
towards.
question we have is the streetlight upgrade. What does the 32,500 actually represent? Because that can't possibly be the purchase cost.
Say that again, what's the question?
The streetlight upgrade number, what does that represent, that
So
32,500?
the street light upgrade is, you know, I don't want to say it's extremely complex.
I mean, I know what it literally is, I just mean like, what does the number represent? Is that an annual cost, is that the
That's the
lump sum?
upfront, that's the upfront cost
Upfront
for
cost.
switching about the
There's
70
a-
lights or so.
There's an upfront cost that's approximately, it's $480. That's to purchase the lights, the fixtures, and to purchase the replacement lights, the LEDs, and the installation. So the entire cost bundled, if we were to contract out, is a little bit under $500 per fixture. And that's just average based across the different spectrum of the lights and so on. Our current cost to Central Hudson is approximately $160 rental fee, no energy costs included in that, per year, per pole. So when you look at the numbers, the return on that investment is that within 3 years, you have paid off all of the costs that you would incur in terms of installing you know, fixtures and taking ownership. What we've, so trying to, you know, to see what the savings, it's going to be, you know, significantly lower cost over time. It's a no-brainer from the standpoint of, you know, we have to do this. If we wait for the Central Hudson to swap the lights out one at a time, we're still saddled with the cost of renting those fixtures.
Can I just ask a question? Who does the maintenance on the fixtures going forward?
So there were different options. One would be, and you know, we have an experienced consultant that's done over 80,000 light replacements in New England. He's currently in Costa Rica, and he's our resource for understanding how to negotiate the contracts as well with you know, with the utility, as well as he has purchasing power because he goes direct to manufacturers. But anyway, his point to us was that there are two ways to handle this. One is to hire, and he doesn't recommend this, hire somebody as a contracting organization and have them, you know, charge like $50 or $20 per light per year as a maintenance cost. When he knows that in the lights that he's replaced in New England and other places, the failure rate is almost non-existent for the first 11 years. So there's, you know, what we would probably opt to do is to have a contract with somebody who would come and as needed, they'd pay him whatever it is per instance or per rate, and because we know that they're extremely reliable. So we wouldn't
There are many
hire.
vendors.
Yeah, well, there are
The
vendors
city
and
of
others.
Beacon has changed out all their street lights. Poughkeepsie as well. They all, have service contracts with vendors. So that's something. But to your question, Sarah, this number represents only a portion of our streetlights, and that is the streetlights that we pay as part of our budget. The lighting district,
Those are separate.
we intend to swap those out as well, but they're a separate group of taxpayers. And then we also have Bard has a separate lighting district, which will be swapped out as well. So this reflects only the consolidated. All right, so it sounds like we have some.
Can I just make one point with regards to Sarah's question? So I think that I completely am in your camp in saying, like, look, what's the prudent thing to do with this $100,000? And the prudent thing to do would be, let's just spend it all on these projects that we know are going to save us money or reduce energy. But NYSERDA wants us to experiment. And I may not be the type of person who likes experimenting, because when I as a physicist, I do experiments, and experiments fail all the time, but they're expecting that, right? And the reason is that they have, if they're gonna have a rebate program, they need to figure out how to structure that, and rather than establish a big rebate program and have that fail, they want experimentation and say, oh, that one in Red Hook succeeded or failed. And so I kind of looked at it as the cost of doing business with NYSERDA and the state, if coming from that sort of cautious perspective. But I don't know, just based on our conversations with a grant writing person who understands NYSERDA's motivations, as I think Robert and others were saying, they're most excited about the experimentation part. And so if you're coming at it from the prudent angle, we can talk them down from that direction. And maybe it could be 90-10, but as I say, the 90, all this stuff here, which is I think most important to us, is less exciting to them.
How about the experimenting we did in that context in the past that we paid for, and now we have the benefit of it, of some of the things we did. They're probably, I'm sure they're not aware of it. We have the heating system we put in our highway garage a few years ago is state of the art. We had our growing pains with it, but it's in the long run clearly going to pay back majorly. I don't think they know it.
Sure, but this is for this $100,000. And I'm not gonna, for this $100,000, we need to show some new experiment.
They're looking for programs. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for a locally enacted and adopted and managed program. And so obviously we have to come up with more specifics. We knew that. So let's see if we can put anything more together perhaps before next week. You have in front of you, in next week's meeting, you have in front of you just a generic resolution. I don't know if you want to entertain that tonight or you want to do that at next week. It's left blank so that we can.
I just said so move.
All right. Would somebody like
What's going to happen between now and next week?
Well, we'll see if we can get you more
All kinds
detail.
of things.
More detail
No,
on
with
it.
respect to this.
More detail on it.
It looks like they've done a lot of details.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really great package for the taxpayers and for humans out there breathing. But, anybody want to second that motion too?
Harry.
I did.
Harry, thank you very much, Harry. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, appreciate your support. So, we are on to and thank you all very much, presenters. Very nice job, Paul. Welcome to the club,
Thank
the team, volunteers. For the folks at home, these volunteers put in so many hours to come up with these numbers, to plant trees, to clean roads. And if you are interested, please reach out to us. We still have a few openings on boards and committees.
Has the CAC ever considered looking into the viability of using wood burning heating, or wood-based heating, like I use? I have a super insulated house with my electric bill is $50 a month, maybe, and my propane bill is a lot less than that.
And we continue to watch for rebates and incentives. NYSERDA hasn't tackled that one yet.
No.
Oh, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that from a purely carbon footprint perspective, right, burning wood is basically equivalent to burning fuel oil or anything else, unless you're burning wood that was already decaying anyway. So a fallen tree versus a tree that's
All right, so there's been a lot of different debates about the question of wood burning.
Yeah.
It is a renewable resource, and unlike fossil fuels, what's going to happen is if you don't burn wood that's already lying in the ground, it's going to decay and off-gas, whatever it is, methane and so on. But the problem with wood burning, just as the problem with coal, is that you'll never get more than about a 45% efficiency out of the burning of that fuel. And the rest of it goes up the stack, out into the atmosphere, and the particulate matter is much more dangerous, as we know from outdoor wood boilers. See, you're setting me up, aren't you? I knew you were.
I have a Scandinavian stove that's state of the art.
Well, but actually, I did get a call from NYSERDA, I believe, on a question of they have a high efficiency outdoor wood boiler now where they pressurize and they actually do.
I haven't gone that far.
They're able to do that, gasify, whatever they're burning. But I don't know that it's really at a point where we would entertain that as an alternative to,
I do acknowledge I'm compromising.
All right. Well,
I'm compromising your agenda.
I'm glad you asked the question.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Good night. Thank you all very much. We have item number 4 is a resolution to revise our state and municipal facilities program grant application. I hope it's here. Yeah, it is. Okay, so as I explained to you, after many months of going back and forth, this was an appropriation from our state senator Serino's office way back last year. And we were told at the time that we could split the use of those funds, $25,000 and $25,000 towards the ambulance and $25,000 towards the tennis court renovation, and we know that the tennis courts are being renovated this summer. We got far down the process only to be kicked out by the fact that there are 2 separate tax IDs, and apparently that is a non-starter for that. So we looked at our balance in the Red Hook Fire Capital account, and we have more than enough money to contribute $25,000 towards the ambulance from that. And so we're trying to figure out then, would we use the full $50,000 towards the tennis court renovation? And obviously that's going to be a much larger expense. We have an estimate of approaching $200,000 to completely redo those tennis courts. So the idea was to solve that issue this way, and I wonder if you have some thoughts about that, or whether that's something you're agreeable to.
I think we already talked about that our reasoning might not apply, and if it doesn't, then we'd give the full amount to the tennis courts.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Harry, does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's money and it's something we need to do.
Yeah. Okay.
If people are in town are going to play tennis.
Okay.
We're about out of business there.
Okay, and we shouldn't have any problem with most of these SAM applications are appropriated towards rec facilities because many local municipalities are deficient in proper funding for the rec facilities. So they're used to these types of applications. So we do have a resolution.
I'll so move unless anybody wants to say anything more.
Sarah, I'm sorry, did you have some thoughts?
No,
on
I
this?
would just say that I know the rec commission is talking a lot about how to do the tennis court project, and we have recognized it as a significant priority, and there's a lot of other projects we need to do in our rec facility, so I think this money will really help, just the overall rec mission, if you will, of the town, because whatever money we're not gonna have to use from our, other funds, we can then use for other projects, so this is great from my perspective.
Okay. Very good. Would somebody like to?
So move.
I'll
take
second.
Uh-oh.
Whoa.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all so much. Very quickly on reorganization, On disaster preparedness, we had Sean McLaughlin coming in last year to chair that committee, and then his schedule changed and he can no longer commit to do that. We have the combination of Vin Coluccio, the until recently chair, and Dick Franklin have both offered to co-chair for now. And we have, I heard from one person who's interested in joining, so maybe next week we'll have that on the agenda as well. But I wanted to just officially propose to you that we go ahead and appoint, and I think what we have to do then is reappoint Vin Coluccio, because he's not even on the committee technically. And so I would suggest that we utilize him as the at-large community member number 3, a 2-year appointment expiring in 2018. That would be Vin Coluccio. And I so move. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. So in the position of chairperson, we would put, if you are agreeable, both Vin Coluccio and Dick Franklin. And obviously that is just a 1-year appointment, as all chairs are, expiring at the end of 2017. Would somebody like to make the motion?
So moved.
Second? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, so moved. Thank you very much. Correspondence, we're getting to the end of
Do you
the...
wanna just reappoint Dick Franklin, because the right here is 2016 also?
Oh, thank you very much, Dick. I appreciate your catching that. Okay, and let's reappoint Dick for another 2-year term expiring in 2018. I so move.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you so much. Okay, and we have some more openings on the disaster preparedness committee, and so maybe we'll take up all of those. We have to re-up our highway superintendent, and we have Bard College rep, and Red Hook Fire and Tivoli Fire, so we want to make sure we've got the most current representatives for those fire companies as well. All right, and then very briefly under correspondence is really sort of an acknowledgement that we have upcoming on April 29th. We'd like to announce our Eagle Scouts for their achievements, and I just wanted to briefly mention that on April 29th we have 4 that are going to have an Eagle Scout ceremony. Alex Van Pelt, Connor Donovan, and his brother Vaughn Donovan, and Chris Benincasa. And so those 4 individuals, we congratulate them. We have resolutions and certificates to honor their accomplishments. They conducted Eagle Scout projects, volunteers who have helped out. We have one with trails at Eleanor Roosevelt National Historic Site. One was building benches at St. Chris here in town. One was constructing a footbridge along the Roosevelt Farm Lane Trail in Hyde Park. And the last one is replacing a worn pathway between the St. Chris's Church parking lots. So we appreciate all their work because we all benefit from that. So I'm going to pass these around for your signature. That's all I have for this evening. Does anybody else have anything before we go to our final public comment period? Okay, and would anybody like to make public comments? All right, well, thank you all very much for joining us, and I would like to make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Thank you, Steve. so.